The Vivobarefoot Primus Lite IV all-weather. I know I'm not the only one when I say that I've been looking forward to the next iteration of the Primus model. Now, with this first impressions video, I'm going to talk about some first thoughts that I've had on this shoe after wearing them for a couple of days in my first workout session. I'll also cover my workout and discuss what I did today in this shoe. But I will say and be forthright that this is probably not going to be the most positive first impressions of a shoe to date on my channel. Hopefully this shoe changes my mind as I wear them more. But let's get into it. The first impression that I have with the Primus Lite IV all-weather is that I think I'm having trouble identifying how this is a 4 and not just a Primus Lite III all-weather. So with this shoe, it is virtually the same as the 3 regarding like the core construction specs. Now, obviously, we have a different all-weather upper, but when it comes to the Primus sole, that is the exact same as the Primus Lite III from what I can see. And then we also have a 2mm deep lug depth, and we have a 2mm sole, which is very similar to the original Primus Lite III. And so that said, for having an increased price point of $175 USD, I'm just having a tough time identifying like why Vivobarefoot made this a 4 versus just making it a 3 all-weather, if they're just going to tweak the upper of this shoe and make it a little bit different in that regard. Because if you're going to keep the core construction features of the sole the same and pretty much the same lacing system and kind of boot and heel and everything else that comes along with it, how is that a 4? My second first impression with this shoe is that the toe break in this shoe is pretty dang brutal. And so with this model, because we have an all-weather upper, which I do like from a more durable standpoint, we have a pretty harsh break here at the forefoot with this overlay over here on the medial forefoot. So as you can see, we have a pretty sharp break there with the material. And what I was noticing while training and just also wearing this shoe out and about walking the dog is that this break really digs into your foot. So after I took the shoe off, for example, I had a pretty noticeable red friction point from where the shoe is pressing into my foot. And now that said, I went with my normal size in this shoe, and it does run a little bit long like the normal Primus shoes do for my foot anatomy. So maybe if this shoe wasn't so long for my foot, it wouldn't have such an aggressive break, but it's also a problem that I had in the Primus Lite Knit, which is worth noting because I know other folks have had that issue too. And so that said, if you do get the Primus Lite IV all-weather, pro tip, wear socks with them when you start breaking them in. So I've worn these with socks and I've worn them barefoot, and barefoot is when I noticed this a ton. I also noticed it with my socks, but it was almost unbearable when training when I was barefoot in this shoe. So definitely wear socks when you're breaking the shoe in just to avoid any pain points there. My third first impression with this shoe is I do like the upper and the idea behind it. So this is a water resistant upper and it does feel warmer compared to the Primus Lite Knit and the Primus Lite III. So I think if you like those models, but you've always kind of wished that they were a little bit warmer for fall, spring, winter days where it's a little cooler outside, this can be a really good option to look into. And hopefully as they break in, that toe break issue will cease to exist and they'll just be way more well-rounded regarding their warmth. But I did notice this shoe being a lot warmer, and I'm stoked to put the shoe through more water resistant testing. So my goal is for the next rainy day, for example, go out and really stomp around as much as I can in this shoe and then see, okay, how much water is getting in for my socks and whatnot. But overall, for my first impressions, this upper is warmer and it's a lot more rigid. So if that is something you've longed for with your Lite Knits and Lite IIIs, once again, this could be a good option for all season wear. My fourth first impression with this shoe is, look, I don't necessarily love that it's a 4 without many updates, but I also see the benefit in kind of keeping some of those core features that a lot of folks like in the Primus Lite III consistent in this shoe. So that said, I am a little conflicted. Now, I am very much in the party that I wish they would put more features into the shoe if they're going to call it a brand new iteration. But if you do like the Primus Lite III and you do wish that model ran warmer once again based off my first impression, then I think you will like this shoe. It is very consistent with the 3. They haven't changed a lot. So if there are features of that shoe like the sole that you like, the Primus sole, for example, they didn't break what wasn't broken in that context. So I do think you will like that if you fall into that camp of person. But again, for me personally, if they're going to increase the price and just tweak the upper, I wish there were some differences that were a little bit more noticeable in the shoe itself regarding its overall fit, feel, and sole construction. Now, when it comes to sizing in this shoe, if you wear any of the Primus iterations to date, I would say size this shoe the exact same. So I'm a size 10. I wear a size 10 in all of my barefoot shoes, all of my Vivobarefoot models. I typically find the Vivobarefoot Primus line to run a little bit long for my foot anatomy, and with this shoe, I have probably about like a centimeter to maybe an inch of length at the end of my toe box, but sizing down, it almost makes the shoe a little bit too snug for my liking, especially with socks. So I typically go with my normal size, and that just gives me a little bit of extra length. And now if you're in between sizes, I think if you're like, let's say a 9.5 and you typically have a lot of room at the end of your toe box in your 9.5, sizing down to a 9 should be a safe call. If you're typically hitting the end of your toe box in your 9.5, go up to a 10 in this iteration. I think that will be the safe call regarding sizing. I also have a normal arch height and I have a E-width foot, and this model feels pretty fine regarding its width. And I will say when you break in the shoe, it is gonna be a little bit snug at the midfoot, but again, that will hopefully break in like the Primus Lite III did, because I also felt like that shoe's volume wasn't the best and it kind of like pushed in the top of my foot, but over time that does break in. And then on my last sizing thought with this shoe, and this is, I guess this could be more of a 4.5 first impression, the laces I feel like run a little bit long, so I have these double knotted, but like this shoe is pretty loose and I could slide it on and off, but like these laces are long. So if I had to crank this tighter to get more security while training and walking, these laces are gonna be wicked long. So I do feel like this shoe will be a shoe that you're gonna have to double knot if you're gonna wear them and you don't want those huge bunny loop ears kind of hanging on the sides of your shoe, or just swap out the laces entirely. I might actually swap out the laces for laces that I have in like the Tolos model that run a little bit shorter. So stay tuned for that, and I'll let you know how that goes based on my full review that comes out in the next few weeks. But if you have additional questions on the sizing of this model and you don't feel like waiting for that review, definitely let me know in the comments below or reach out to me personally on Instagram and I can help you out accordingly. So today's workout is what I would call like a tune-up slash potentiation workout. So long story short, my buddy Jake here came into town and he talked me into running the Austin Half Marathon on Sunday. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull a max deadlift in the morning and then go run that half to make it a little hybrid day. I'm going to film some content on it, but this was a perfect workout to break in these shoes because it gave me some opportunities to feel this model. So after deadlifts, we worked up to a single at about like a 6 or 7 out of 10 just to feel some weight before deadlifting on Sunday, pretty heavy. We went into box jumps and then this single leg supported RDL variation. Our first set we did contralaterally, so offset hand with the dominant leg on the ground, and then we did some ipsilateral, so same hand, same leg right here. And the goal here was just to get those glutes and hamstrings moving and having some tension on them, but then also getting some light stimulus from those plyos on that box jump without going crazy and breaking down, or not breaking down, but running down our nervous system before Sunday, since we are obviously running 13 miles right after pulling a max deadlift. We finished off with some reverse sled drags. I did these because they feel great on my knee, and I wanted to test the grip of the Primus Lite IV all-weather sole, and it did a pretty good job thus far for their grip capabilities. All right, guys, that wraps up my first impressions of the Primus Lite IV all-weather. Honestly, I've been less than thrilled with this shoe. I see some benefits with keeping some elements of it consistent, but I feel like if you're gonna name a shoe a 4 over a 3, I feel like there should be more tweaks and changes versus just an upper change, because why not just call this a Primus Lite 3 all-weather if you're only going to tweak the upper of the shoe and everything else is going to stay the same? Let me know in the comments below how you feel about that, because I appreciate once again that they didn't fix what wasn't broken, but at the same time, like with an increased price point and not that many changes, I'm also conflicted on wanting to call it a new iteration and then paying more for that. All that said, if you have additional questions on this model in the meantime, let me know in the comments below or reach out to me personally on Instagram, whichever you prefer. I will have a full review coming out on these very, very soon. And if you don't feel like waiting for that, and if you feel like picking up a pair sooner than that, use my code down below. It does save you money when I buy shoes for my reviews, because I did buy these. And it does help knock off a couple of extra bucks when I buy the models for my reviews. But all that said, y'all, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.